Hi, my name is Chelsea if you don't know me, and this is my channel where I decided to document some of the ins and outs of my life as a hobby farmer and a homeschooling mom and a missionary traveling between Washington State and the Dominican Republic. So this channel I decided to put together mostly just for friends and family to keep track of my crazy life. And for anybody else who is interested in just kind of following along with me on our strange and wonderful journeys. We are currently here in the Dominican Republic, and we just traveled from Washington State a few days ago. So this video is just going to be kind of documenting what it's like to travel from Washington to the Dominican Republic. So for us, we all fly out of the SeaTac airport, and it's usually always an evening flight. And when we come here, we always try to bring donations. Sometimes we do a drive where we are bringing clothing, other times it's hygiene supplies and school supplies, so it depends on the time of year and the need. Last year there was a huge flood in this area, and so a lot of people were in need of clothes and linens, things like that, that just got absolutely destroyed when the waters just came straight into their homes. So this time we brought 4 totes, which isn't too many for us, so that was pretty manageable. We have 3 little kiddos that are very good at traveling now. I'll show some clips of that in a minute, but here I am just a few days ago on Saturday. Here we are. It is 2 hours until we leave for the airport. This is the disaster that is my house currently. We are in the process of frantically packing and cleaning, and you know, however much we get done is what will be done. And this trip we packed 4 totes full of donations and things for the properties that we serve down in the Dominican Republic. So we've done up to 15 before, so this is a bit more of a manageable load, but you know, it's always fun to see if we can fit it in the car. So that's where we are. I'm smiling, but I'm stressed. So as I said, we fly out in the evening. We have several very incredibly generous friends and family members who drive us the hour down to the SeaTac airport. And if you've ever driven to and from Seattle, you know that's not a very pleasant drive. So we're eternally grateful to them. And so we got there around 6 p.m. in the evening. Our flight was out at 9:30. It was a very simple process getting through the airport. It was very empty for some reason on a Saturday. It's February right now, so we have to have an e-ticket to fly into the Dominican Republic, which makes it really simple. Actually, you just fill out the e-ticket at home. You go to the website, it's free. You fill it out, you put in your passport information, where you're traveling, how long you're going to be there. This was our first time that we had to buy return tickets. Technically, that's been the law for a while now, but we bought our return tickets at the airport because usually they don't ask for them, so we've never bothered because we never really know when we're returning. So I mentioned that we own this retreat center here in the Dominican Republic. Really, it's a farm and a missionary center previously, and we jumped into this life 3 years ago. Rewind back to 5 years ago. Well, maybe a little more than 5, 6, 7 years ago. We had the cookie cutter American life, I would say. I was a teacher, my husband is a chiropractor. We had our little hobby farm in Washington, and you know, I bred my little Nigerian dwarf goats and pets, and then I stayed home when my babies were little. And then 2020 came, and I'm going to fast forward through the course of that. That's a story for another day. But it totally shook our lives. And so we ended up flying to the Dominican Republic. Within a few days, we decided that, yep, this was where we wanted to pursue having a healing center. So we put all of our life savings into this place. It's 47 acres. It had been abandoned for a couple of years. Previously, it was a missionary retreat center. It has like 12 buildings, a lot of work to be done, but it's gorgeous and peaceful here. So We travel back and forth every few months. Usually we're not on a set schedule. So anyway, getting back to the story of traveling. So we took off from Seattle, no problems. We've gotten pretty good at traveling with our kids. And like I said, our kids are really experienced travelers, great travelers. Our youngest is 7 right now, and our oldest is almost 12. So they are able to carry their own things and wake up and move when they have to get off the airport, which are struggles when they're very little. But when we first moved here, Callan was 4, so he was our youngest. And so, you know, things are a little trickier, but we've gotten the gist of it. So our first flight goes from Seattle to Charlotte, usually to Miami, but this time it was to Charlotte, and that was great because it was a little bit of a shorter flight, and then the second flight was a little bit longer, which was kind of nice to even out the flights a little bit. Normally we go to Miami, and then it's only like a 2-hour flight from Miami. So we flew into Charlotte. We usually have one flight where we try to get the kids to sleep, and one flight where we let them stay awake. So we started it, flew out at like 9. We let the kids play on their tablets for a while, then told them to shut it down and catch some sleep, which they did, and I also slept some. And then we got to Charlotte Airport. I think our layover was 5 hours. Sometimes we have a layover, I think we've had as short as maybe an hour, hour and a half sometimes, which is a little tricky to get through sometimes. But this time we had a 5-hour layover. So once we found our gate, I was like, let's all get snuggled. Another one of my like traveling hacks that we've done as a family when I know we're gonna have a long layover and we're traveling overnight is I pack blankets, and the kids carry squishmallows, those big squishy stuffed animals, because they're allowed to just carry them on. I've never had a flight attendant or a airport personnel tell us that the kids aren't allowed to carry those, even though they also have their personal item, which is their backpack. So they always carry a squishmallow, and then they can just dog pile on top of each other on the plane and just snuggle in and sleep. But then they also work as a great pillow. I take the blankets that I packed out, I'll lay a blanket on the floor in the airport, the squishmallows down, and we either take turns sleeping, or sometimes I'll try to sleep. Although this time I was the one that was like, hey, let's all try to sleep. We didn't sleep that much on the first flight. Our second flight's only 3 hours. Let's all try to sleep. And I laid down first, and then everybody else got all laid down, and then Devin had gone to find the restroom, my husband, and then when he came back, I was aware that he was going to sleep, so my mom brain was just like, no, you can't sleep. Somebody has to be in charge of everything. So I did not sleep, but everybody else in my family had a very nice long nap in the Charlotte airport in some random corner away from other people, and then caught our next flight. So that ended up being around a 3-hour flight, which was great. And we got here in the afternoon, around 2:30. So flights pretty much always come into Puerto Plata Airport here on the north coast of the Dominican Republic from, at least for us, flying from Seattle to Miami or Charlotte. They always come in on the afternoon. So we always arrive in the afternoon, which is great. We get here, get ourselves kind of oriented, and then usually we're able to we're tired enough at that point to go to sleep at a reasonable time for DR time, because right now it's 4 hours difference. Sometimes it's 3 hours difference, sometimes it's 4 hours difference. It just depends on daylight savings in the US. So right now it's 4 hours difference, and so we're 4 hours ahead here in the DR. So we're able to get to sleep early for Washington time, regular DR time, and then get onto a regular schedule pretty quickly. So I usually don't like to take too many days off of our homeschooling schedule at a time. I like to kind of keep it even and flowing. So I quickly realized last week that I needed to take some days off in order to prepare my house and pack and get everything ready to move back here again. So we took a few days off, and then it took us we arrived on Sunday, and yesterday was Wednesday, so that was our first day that we got into our back to school routine here in the DR. So I'll show you kind of our school routine here in another video. So every time we come back to the Dominican Republic after being gone for a few months, there's always lots of problems to be solved. We always say we live in the jungle here, and the jungle is always trying to take it back. So our water was off, our electricity from the street power was not functioning, animals all had various health issues going on. I'll introduce all of our animals in a different video also, but we were able to hop on top of getting all those things taken care of pretty quickly. Here in the Dominican Republic, the drinking water is usually, you have to purchase drinking water, and pretty much all of the little stands that are everywhere are closed on Sundays. And we arrived on a Sunday and had about this much drinking water in one of those blue jugs. So we used our water sparingly that first evening. By Monday, we were able to go out, go grocery shopping, get our coffee situation solved, get our water situation solved. We were actually, the night we arrived, Evan got on the phone with a friend who does a lot of work around the property for us, and he was able to get our electricity turned on, and so we were able to get our well pump pumping so that we could have running water again. We have a solar system here which usually runs everything, but sometimes the street power goes out. So and that is like our nighttime power when we run out of solar. So it's also the only thing that powers our well pump. So we were able to get all of that solved within 24 hours of being back here. And part of the thing about living in the tropics in a developing country is there's a lot of problem solving to be done. So I would say that's one of the things that we've learned here: patience and problem solving. Life skills for everyone, but you know, you learn it on a different level. Being in a country that's not your own, in a culture that's not your own. So that's where we're at right now. So we are now a few days back into here. We feel settled, and we're starting our regular routines again. So that's what it's like for us when we're traveling from Washington State to the Dominican Republic. As I said, we've been doing this for the last 3 years, and we typically are here for anywhere from 1 month to 6 months at a time. And then we usually are in Washington similar to 2 months to 6 months at a time. So right now we're here. We don't have return tickets. We don't know when we're going back. And over the course of the next few months, I plan to put out some different videos just showing our life here for friends and family to see what we're up to, and anyone else who's interested. So thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you enjoy these videos.